GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 172. Holding it together like some very good glue. I am your host and podcast commander, Joseph Martin, joined by...
Hello, and welcome back to the Alan Wake podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Doors, and today I have two fantastic guests with me, Max Payne and Mr. Scratch.
I'm Max Payne.
And I'm Mr. Doors.
Am I Mr. Scratch then?
You are, yeah.
Well, then who are you?
I'm Mr. Doors.
Mr. Door.
None of us are Alan Wake?
No, this is the Alan Wake
later.
podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
So none of the people on the Alan Wake podcast are Alan Wake?
That really depends on how you look at it, to be honest. And I don't know how much we're going to get into spoiler territory here, but you definitely could argue that at least one of the people on this podcast is in fact Alan Wake.
Okay, can we just real quick, if you were not on the Alan Wake podcast right now, what would your names be?
Oh, I'm Red Passenger II, and I'm dressed up as someone
Blue.
who recorded in time for a Halloween episode.
Blue.
I'm Mr. Leaf, and I moonlight as Mr. Scratch in my free time.
You do realize that, like, this could be someone's first episode of the GameCola podcast, right? And, like, they just have no idea.
If this is your
Blue
first
and
episode,
Leaf,
please go to the last episode. It was really good.
I would
the two other
like
people
to
on this
say
podcast.
you really messed up with your rhyme because it was what, 72? It was more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And you didn't say, like, first podcast with just Leaf and Blue. Like, you had a name right there.
I'm pretty sure I've already said Blue for one of them.
No, but this is
Yeah,
Leaf
but it
and
was
Blue.
a new... This is, like, really important
But
new
no.
context,
Look,
so it would work.
okay. Let's pull things. We're already getting way too big for our britches here. You do not know the lengths I go into the design of the rhyme after the introduction to the podcast. It cannot just be that I change the few words before the rhyme. I only get one chance to use any rhyming word with the number. If once I do that, that is the one that is used for that word. So even if I haven't used blue before, I want to save it for a really good one. And if I have, then I'm done with it. I can't do it again. That's just how it works. Okay? So I don't need this criticism from a place that doesn't understand the meticulous nature of
are you
the
telling
intro
me if
rhyme.
I go back through every episode, there won't be a single repeat? Because I'm pretty sure that's not true.
I'm pretty sure that, like, almost every episode, Joe's uncertain if the rhymes
You
happened
understand
before.
that I am forging ahead with this. This is not a rule set that materialized out of thin air. This is an experiential process that I have developed over years of podcasting. Ever since episode 128, Feeling Great, I have been refining this into a meticulous science, and now all of a sudden that I'm good at it, everybody's got their own little opinions on what it's supposed to be.
All right,
So
Mr.
you're
Scratch,
Without
I'm
putting
going
in
to need you to
perfectly
calm
good
down.
piece of autofiction.
So what's up with Alan Wake? You guys are in such a tizzy about this video game, and I have no idea what you're talking about because you keep doing spoiler warnings all over the Discord.
Well, okay, so are we going to have to spoiler warning this entire podcast as well?
No, look, you should be able to pitch a game to someone who's listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast without spoiling the entire game. Because surely the marketing team for the video game Alan Wake put together some things that you can say about Alan Wake when you have not yet played the video game Alan Wake.
I mean,
the
first
best
of all,
game
is it just called the video
ever
game
that you
Alan
should
Wake?
Go buy right now.
Is there more
There you go.
words in the title, or is it literally just called Alan Wake?
Alan Wake.
Like 2.
Yeah, that's the one I'm playing.
When we're playing.
So it's called both
But the
Alan
first
Wake
one,
and Alan Wake.
the first one's called Alan Wake.
The second one's called
The
Control.
new one is Alan Wake too. Yeah.
I think the first one's called Max Payne. I might be getting the order mixed up.
Arguably, yeah.
The first one's called Max
I
Payne.
don't
The
know.
second one's called Alan
I
Wake.
haven't gotten
The
far
third one's
enough into
called
this game
Control.
to know if that game's the first one yet or not.
There's another
So
one that's vaguely part of the canon, but that the developers like lost rights
Oh
to.
yeah.
I don't remember what
There's
that one's
also a bunch
called.
of blog posts that you should probably read, but you don't have to.
A whole manuscript, actually.
So like the eponymous, is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're about to say Alan Wake, then yeah.
I was going to say Sherlock Holmes, in fact.
Yeah.
I think I have deduced a key element of the concept of what you were referring to as Alan Wake, which sounds like it is a shared universe style of linked video games. Is that correct?
I think what you really need to know about Alan Wake is that it isn't a lake, it's an ocean.
It is an ocean. That is true.
It looks like a lake, but it's an ocean.
So there's the Max Payne video games, there's the Control video game, there's some other video games that you said. There's a video game that has the words Alan Wake printed on the box cover. And these all take place in the same universe, quote unquote. Is that an accurate statement?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. It's
a bit more complicated than that, but I'll settle for that.
Is it a multiverse?
No.
No.
I guess it's almost like has become a multiverse, but only in the sense that like for example, Max Payne, I'm sure would be explicitly mentioned in this game if they still had the rights to that character, but they don't. So he's heavily alluded
because of legal shenanigans. It's not. It's become
only
multiverse.
A multiverse in covering up inconsistencies.
Kind of, but it's definitely never
including
called a
them
multiverse.
in their original form.
Okay, now let's take the video game Alan Wake. This episode of the GameCola podcast, at least the beginning, is now becoming Joseph tries to figure out what actually Alan Wake is.
I love this
through the cryptic answers that Blue and Leaf give him.
I'm so excited.
So much fun. This is my favorite episode.
So
of the
in
podcast
the video game
ever.
Alan Wake, like you put it in your
1 or 2
machine box.
Yeah, there's
and whatever thing plays the video game Alan
1 or
Wake.
2
and.
1 or 2?
1 or 2.
Where are we starting?
What is the new one?
2.
Is there a new one called 2?
2 is the new one.
Okay. You put Alan Wake 2 into your computer box. And what do you do?
Run for your life and then fail.
So is it a horror game?
This one
it wants to be. It desperately wishes it were, but to be entirely honest, I don't feel like it fully hits the mark. But I'm okay with that because I don't really like horror.
I think it does a decent job.
Blue is more scared than I am.
The ambiance is like really good.
The ambiance is good.
Even in a part of the game where I knew I was safe, there was scary music for about 30 minutes and it made me really tense, even though I knew I was okay.
You're never okay.
The ambiance is
all
good.
Times the game is trying to get you with jump scares at every moment. Maybe it just gets worse the further. So for context for the audience, and Joseph knows this, but Blue is still playing the game. I have finished it. So it definitely by the end, its entire purpose is just to try to get you with jump scares, and it.
Oh, that's rough.
I mean, you've seen some of it already. It's not like jump scares like a thing jumps out at you. It's the thing that the screen has kind of been doing since the beginning, where it flashes to scary faces.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if those have been getting you.
That is true.
2 got
the
me
most recent one did, but mostly they don't. But
yeah.
I think they feel purposeful other than that.
They do. There's a purpose to them.
They're related to other things, and that's cool. And so I don't hold that against them.
I don't hold it against them, but I don't feel like it gets you as much as maybe it should. And I don't know, maybe their point wasn't to get you with it, but
that's what I felt was that that's not sometimes once in a while there will be one where I think that was the goal, but overall not all of them are that way.
I would agree with that. But it is a horror game by necessity of the plot. Okay? That just...
Are you trying to get from point A to point B? Is there combat?
There is
just run away from things?
What a question.
The goal is to get to the end of the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that involve a lot of walking around? It is a borderline walking simulator, but it does have combat. Okay.
And it also
There's
has
exploration.
crime detective sort of vibes to it, but it's not like a like you can unsuccessfully solve this mystery sort of thing. Like it is an extremely linear game. You don't have like dialogue options.
Like it's sort of like you have
there
to
is
figure
one
out
of the
something to move on.
characters. Sorry?
Yeah.
It's like you have to figure out something to move on, or is it like, oh,
You
there's
have
like
to-
little notes and radio things hidden around and you can find them and piece together the story.
You have to
But you
figure
could also
out
just kind of
something-
blast through it and not know what's going on.
So that's what the
There's
first
one
game
of the
was
characters. Yeah, but one of the characters in this one has a little murder board with the red string and all the dead people pictures and stuff.
like that.
And it's not implemented the greatest.
It's not.
But I like the idea. And then the other character you play as has a little writing board with places and story ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And you put those together to write a story with that character.
And I like that better. I feel that was implemented better.
That is cool, yeah.
Is this a good video game?
Yes.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Follow-up question. Why did you decide to play this good video game?
'Cause I have been waiting for it for 13 years.
Because it's been 13 years.
Why were you waiting for it for 13 years?
Since Alan Wake
I know, yes, it took 13 years for it to come out. Like, yes, I get that. You couldn't have waited, 5 years. But, what was the inciting moment of this wait?
Because Alan Wake, the first, always kind of implied there was going to be more. That the story wasn't fully resolved. It ended in a beat that's like, this could be the end, but based on everything that you go throughout Alan Wake, you don't really believe that it's the end by the time you get there.
And then they followed it with DLC that was like...
Yeah.
It was cool, but it didn't progress much.
And then Control came out, and then Control's DLC came out. Yeah, and then Control was awesome. And then Control's DLC came out, and it expounded upon Alan Wake 1 in ways that are relevant to Alan Wake 2. It's ridiculous how many games you have to play to like fully comprehend this, and an entire TV show you kind of have to watch.
Oh yeah, you do have to watch
just to get the like
yeah.
What TV show do you have to watch?
Quantum Break? Is that?
I was gonna say
Night
Twin
Springs.
Peaks.
Yeah. I've only seen the first season of Twin Peaks. I'm still watching through it.
It's not a collaboration though.
No.
It's
No,
just that
but
it
so
deeply references it that it makes the most sense if you connect it.
It is
It's
canonically,
like
I don't know canonically is the right
homage.
word. Yeah, it is the creators of Alan Wake have said that they were heavily inspired by Twin Peaks.
There's a place in Alan Wake 2 called Coffee World, and that's a reference to how much the main character of Twin Peaks likes coffee.
Which is funny. Also, the diner in Alan Wake is almost a carbon copy of the diner in Twin Peaks.
And the vibes are pretty similar.
They're like the surrealism is very similar. The like just ever so slightly something strange is very similar.
Yeah. The mundane, but like people are just like a tiny bit off. Not in ways that you can like point out and be like, hey, there's a lot wrong with you. I'm gonna list it out. But just in like, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
Isn't... Oh yeah, there's a lamp lady, not a log lady. It's slightly less insane in this, I guess.
I know. I'm like, come on, just go all the way. Go with the log lady. It's okay. But also, like, especially, Blue, you said you only got through the first season of Twin Peaks? Yeah. Okay. So definitely by the second season, you can tell that also kind of the antagonist, highly similar to Twin Peaks. It's his antagonist.
Don't they share a name, actually? I just know that Mr. Scratch is another name for the devil, so there's that.
Well, Mr. Scratch is...
Guys, I'm going to have to cut you off. Talking about the origins of names is not great audio.
No,
you're also avoiding spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, is the spoilers.
So I'm going to cut you off there. I'm going to ask you a question that might steer the conversation a little bit.
Can I say something?
And my role as podcast... What do you want to say?
It's to answer a question that you asked earlier, but we kind of moved away from in regards to the like crime solving. You were like, do you have to like find a note and then progress? The thing that is annoying is that how you solve the crime is by walking around and getting quote unquote clues that that appear in your mind space as the detective. Her murder board's in her mind space. That's not a spoiler. It's very immediately introduced.
Yeah, her
You have
mind
to take
place, because she's too, like, practical of a person to call it a mind palace.
I know, right? But she takes it. The way that you progress in the game is that you go back into her mind place and sometimes arbitrarily click on the board with the images until you happen to figure out where they're supposed to fit, because it is not always intuitive. And it's very frustrating
There's a little
sometimes because you can
bit of
know
Phoenix
exactly
Wright
what you need to
syndrome.
do, but you can't do it until you've put it on the board.
Yeah, that got me for like an hour in
Yeah.
the beginning. I didn't put the picture on the murder board, so
Right.
the explicit instructions I'd received away from
Right.
that didn't work because I hadn't mind palaced that info, I guess, even though it was written out for me literally on a magical piece of paper or whatever.
Right. So
Okay,
that's how you progress in the game. For the crime
let's put
part.
this together. So why is this a good video game?
Because as you may have noticed, it's got one of those real complex stories.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, really?
Exactly right
I
up my
hadn't
alley.
quite picked up on that.
It's like the House of Leaves of video games, so it was made for me.
The other thing, so it has a complex story, and the story is cool, and it unravels in a good way. But then, aside from that, the story is told using a combination of cutscenes in a video game, you walking around a video game, and live action scenes that play when you interact with certain things in certain places. So you like.
Are you talking about FMV?
Does that count? I guess.
I think so. I don't think it has to look like a VHS tape.
Well, yeah, I think I think it counts.
I'm just saying that there's definitely a lot of GameCola people out there who are like, ooh, live action video in a video game.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you say that sooner?
I think I could go with that, yeah. FMV sections. It's cool.
We can put
value?
the FMV tag on this podcast.
Yeah.
What does that stand for? Full motion video?
Full motion,
yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's that. But it's like, it's the way that it's...
Every time you talk about this game, you say, oh yeah, it's like that. Well, I mean, except, like...
It's complicated,
this game isn't
Joe.
The thing that
anything.
it does,
like,
it's
just almost a lot of things. Do you understand my experience here?
Okay.
Every time you try to say anything definitive about this game, you're like, well,
that's what makes it so good. Like, that's
Take the Marvel Cinematic Universe, smush it together with House of Leaves, and then make a multimedia art project, ARG, out of it. There you go, Alan Wake.
It's also, like, at its core, it is
an Alan reality game
of an artist. It is the story of creating
That's the title of the episode, I guess.
Sorry, I interrupted your philosophical musings with my very good joke.
Yeah, thanks.
Please continue.
At its core, it is a story about an artist, and it is a story about the creation of art and how the art that you create can consume your life. That's to put it very, like, it is more abstract than that and also kind of more literal, but that's sort of what it's about. And so the fact that it utilizes so many different artistic methods to tell that story, I think is very cool. Also, I mean, it's hard to, like, talk about it without getting into spoilers, because, like, there is a very good reason that there are FMV sections in this video game. Like, it canonically makes sense for that to be in this video game. It's
ambitious and crazy, and they pull it off.
They do.
Like,
there are some great sections. There are some
they
like
are
things
very
that I
confident
think about
in
regularly.
The craziness that they're giving, and they have full reason to be confident because they're the best at it.
They do not hold back for it. They created a crime board and they did it anyway. Like, that's kind of my main complaint about the game, and I feel like that does say something. Like, there's and the fact that was obnoxious, but far from enough to stop me from wanting to play the game and recommend it to everyone I talk to.
I like it more than Spider-Man 2. That should be... go play Alan Wake 2. It's very good.
Yeah.
But Blue, you said already on the Discord that you were going to say that Spider-Man 2 was a bad video game.
That was just joking to make John upset.
Yeah.
Did you lie? Did you lie on the Discord? Is that what you're telling me? Are you telling me that Spider-Man 2 is actually a good video game?
I never said it wasn't good.
That's true.
Well, actually, I did. I said that to John in that one joke, but other than that, I didn't say that.
Other than that one time I said that thing, I never said that.
Yeah, but it was sarcastic.
I only said it once and never said anything to the contrary. I don't understand how you got this impression.
It was a joke.
Blue, tell me about the Spiders, man.
I don't want to hear about the Spider-Man. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, you guys got to talk about Alan Wake for 20 minutes.
It was a good 20 minutes.
You can listen to Spider-Man a bit. Something that people will understand.
Once Blue also finishes the game, can we do a podcast where we just talk about Alan Wake but with spoilers?
I would be so down for that.
That'd be fun. Leave in the comments all you
can
people
put it
that
together,
comment. If you're
welcome to do whatever you want.
If you buy one thing this year, it should be Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, except for Joseph would also need to buy Alan Wake 1 and Control. Control,
Blue,
I guess, is
tell me about
optional.
Spider-Man.
Okay, so recently they released a game about a Marvel Comics superhero who's usually dressed in red, and he swings through the streets of New York. He's got an extra sense that allows him to perceive things a normal person wouldn't. He's been romantically entangled with a redhead and had one of his non-redheaded girlfriends killed by one of his villains.
Oh, that's
He's fought villains like Mysterio and Kingpin. He has a very strong sense of justice, and he grew up an orphan. I'm talking about...
No, that one's Mega Man.
No, I'm talking about Daredevil.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's Daredevil.
So I was going to say, Mega Man is the one... Mega Man is the one with the strong sense of justice.
Mega Man has never dated a redhead.
Daredevil's a lawyer.
I'm just saying that he has a strong sense of justice. Like, that's his, thing. So you're going to lose me a bit.
Has Mega
that's
Man
the strong sense of justice character.
Ever canonically had a romantic entanglement?
All right, you want me to be Alan Wake about it and be like, well, what do you mean by canonically? Because...
I think, what about in that one TV show where he doesn't know he's a robot?
There is the new TV show, he knows he's a robot. He's trying to keep the fact that he's a super robot secret. But everybody knows, including him, that he is a robot.
Okay.
Does he have a girlfriend or boyfriend? And are they...
No.
Do they die?
Well... I think he does have a romantic interest, but it's just in that weird, kid TV show way where they just kind of, he just acts weird around her, but it doesn't, ever go anywhere or lead to anything because the plot isn't going to move forward, so it's just kind of a thing that exists.
That's close enough. That's most...
But, that I would not consider, canonical, because that's its own weird little thing.
Does she die?
Fair. Does she?
No. There is a love interest that dies in the Mega Man series, but not
she a redhead?
Not Mega Man's. No, it is a light brown.
Okay, so she's dead. She's gonna die.
She's gonna die.
Get dropped off a bridge,
She is dead.
Throwing card thrown at her.
She is dead.
Oh my!
Something.
The only ones that survive are the redheads.
Oh my god, he has 2 girlfriends that died. Sorry. These bits are getting out of control. Just tell me about the video game Spider-Man 2, please. There was a Daredevil game that it got canceled in 2004. It was for the PlayStation 2, and they just dug up and released on the internet a playable version of it.
Okay, but see, Blue, I did not ask you about the Daredevil game. I asked you about
I'll talk about the other comic book character associated with the color red that has super strength. That got a game recently. His name is Hellboy.
I said Spider-Man, the video game that everybody has been playing and would want to hear someone talk about on a video game podcast.
It's almost like all of these characters are the same.
Spider-Man 2 is a good game.
End of story.
But it's got a lot of... I find the gameplay lacking. The story is great.
No, that's important for a game.
The story turned it around from my opinion on the gameplay. So like I'm glad. I think I like it more than the first one overall because the story really did some good stuff for me. But before I got to like the third act, I was like, I like this less than I enjoyed the first one.
Is it that different from the first one, gameplay-wise?
I think that there's like some refinement in, from a design standpoint, probably objective improvements, but personally they like nerfed the very specific way I played the first one in like at every turn, basically.
Is this like referring to like your combat, or like have they changed the like feeling of swinging around?
I mean, so the swinging is like faster and better, and they also gave they gave the Spider-Man web wings.
Web wings?
Yeah, okay, so look up Amazing Fantasy number 15, or go
Googling
watch...
things isn't good for podcasts, as Joseph would say.
If you've watched the movie Spider-Man Far From Home...
flying squirrel wings, but with web.
Why would they do that?
Because it's canonical to the comics, and it has also been in a movie.
Right.
And you can get over the river with it.
Yeah, it's the biggest New York in any Spider-Man game ever, because they added... They added like Queens and stuff, so...
Did they add Washington Heights and Inwood?
I assume so. I don't know about geography. I'm terrible at geography, so I can't tell you for sure. You'll have to ask John on that one.
Is Manhattan a rectangle, or does it have a little bit at the top left?
I don't know.
Why do you think that question would help clarify?
Because it's not geography, it's looking at the map.
I don't have the map in front of me right now.
But you didn't like go to the upper, like every corner? You didn't trace out the boundary?
I went to every place I could, but I don't know the real world translation of where those are.
I don't think it calls out the names of the real places. It just says go over.
It has the neighborhoods. So there's like Harlem, and you can go to Harlem, but I don't...
Yeah, those are... The things I said are neighborhoods.
Well,
no.
I don't know all of them. I know Harlem. That's where
I'm just saying because in the last game they cut it off. So I was just curious if they added it back in.
Maybe you'll have to ask John. I don't know that one specifically. But yeah, they gave him web wings because he does use those. It's a thing.
Does he flap?
But no, it's like a wingsuit. It's
or a flying squirrel. I already gave a great analogy.
Yeah, sugar glider.
Why are we going to reinvent the wheel?
So, but for me, they removed suit powers. So in the first game, you unlock a suit, and it has its own special power, and you can use that whenever you want now. And so you just get a whole bunch of unique powers. But they removed that aspect from this one. Which, makes sense from a developer standpoint, but I liked switching between them, and, like, there are things that can't be replicated now because they're all gone. They also removed the gadget wheel, so now you only get 4 gadgets. And what I used to do was, like, go into a really tough encounter and, like, use all of my gadgets in whatever way I wanted and just, like, decimate everyone with all of the cool stuff. Like, in The Last of Us, there's a segment where you get into a really tough fight and you use, like, literally every single one of your bullets, and then, like, some bricks from around the environment. That's the kind of stuff I like in big video game fights. But they basically completely removed that ability, and you can just use 4 gadgets, and it sucks. They also removed one of the gadgets they removed was the tripwire pulley grabby thing. So which inhibits my stealth. Which the problem in the first game, my biggest problem with the first game was that the stealth wasn't that... when you take a bunch of the people out, it forces you into combat with the remaining grunts. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to stealth all of them. And then Miles Morales, the sequel, it fixed that by letting him turn invisible, and then by still having... I don't know if it still had the web grabber. I think it did. But anyways, it improved the stealth in a couple of ways. And then this one, they completely reverted on that, and now it's just the way it was. Well, it's not the way it was in the first one, but they removed an option from my... I'm upset.
Did it make it so that you didn't feel like Spider-Man anymore?
Whoa. What just happened?
That is...
my computer?
That was Joe being upsetting. You can ignore that. Discord didn't pick up 50% of that, I would guess, but...
But you got it from context.
Yeah, I gotcha. I guess the answer is yes, they did remove that, because now you feel like Spider-Man instead, so... Yeah. They also removed upgrades.
Oh. How are the cosmetics?
There's still the Scarlet Spider outfit, so I'm pretty happy. There are, original designs that people didn't like, but I think some of them are not as bad as people think. There were a couple duds in the first one, to be honest, so this one...
There's some questionable... I have not played the second one. I have witnessed quite a bit of the first.
Recently in the comics, Miles got a new costume for his 10th anniversary of being in existence, I guess.
Oh, he turned 10 years old?
Which is different from a birthday. No. In our world, they were like, oh, it's his 10th anniversary, so they, in the comics, were like, he has a new suit now. And people liked that, I think, but I didn't. I didn't like that new suit. But in this game, he gets a suit, and I really like it, and apparently everyone else doesn't like it, so role reversal.
That's awkward.
They removed upgrades. I loved, there was an upgrade in the first one where you could heal any time. You didn't have to fill up a focus bar, and so I could play a lot riskier and do cooler stuff without being as afraid. But in this one, you can't do that. You have to wait for the bar to fill, and then you use a whole bar. And that's annoying. And finally, the thing I was worried about, I think I talked before on the podcast, when I finished Miles Morales, was the open world. I was like, I don't want to do this again if they don't change it at all. And then they pretty much didn't change it at all. And I still did most of it anyways, but I was disappointed. We need open world games to get a new shtick.
A new city?
Well, I don't... that's a good question on, if they'll use New York for Wolverine. Because that game's gonna have to feel different, because he doesn't web swing. Yes. So I don't know if they're gonna reuse New York.
If you feel like Spider-Man while playing the Wolverine game, then that's actually a problem.
Yeah, I think they might send him to Japan or Canada, so it doesn't... It's not
Japanada?
Yeah, definitely that one.
That's what they said when they relocalized Phoenix Wright to your region, right, Blue?
Japanifornia.
Right, but then
I didn't
the
get my own
Canadian one was-
localization. That would have been awesome, but I didn't
You didn't get
it.
your own Canadian localization of
Every
Phoenix
copy
Wright?
of Phoenix Wright is personalized.
I mean, I do think that part of the problem with Spider-Man specifically is that New York is kind of like one of the only cities in America that has enough buildings to web swing and like have that vibe. Unless you were to go into other countries. Like you could absolutely go for literally forever if you went to like Shanghai or something, and you could probably get pretty far with Tokyo.
If they moved him, they'd have to like add web or moon swinging, as Spider-Man fans call it.
Can you Spider-Man like in Kansas?
Smallville, he can team up with Superman.
Just keep swinging off of Superman.
Yeah, it's just one web line.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's funny.
But so the gameplay was downgraded and almost like made me not appreciate it as much as the first one. But then the story went really hard, especially in like the last third of the game. Is just like 5 hours of them throwing stuff at me that I did not expect and thought was really cool and clever. So yeah, that was neat. It was
Is the story on par with Alan Wake 2?
I don't know yet.
That's fair. Come back and answer that question later.
It was like going through 40 years of comic book history in like 5 hours, and it was awesome.
That sounds like fun for someone that likes that type of thing.
It was great.
Blue, do you like comics? I don't know if we've ever discussed this. Like, is this a new thing we're learning about you?
I just gave you like a paragraph on all the ways that Daredevil and Spider-Man are exactly the same.
That is not your deepest cut, Blue. Come on.
No, but it was good. I was excited to see how long I could go.
It was pretty good.
What is your deepest video game comic cut? What's the deepest in the iceberg you can go?
That's really tough. Like, define. I need more definition on that.
I mean, are you familiar with like the blank iceberg?
Yeah,
content?
Usually I watch those and know all of them entirely. So
what's
right,
at the
so
bottom
like it's
of
just
the
whatever
iceberg?
would be at the bottom of the iceberg, but for video games and comic like licenses. Like specific. If you want me, just to be clear on the specifics, I'm talking about video games that are licensed by comic property.
Yeah, I just had an answer and I can't remember what it was. I mean, the Daredevil PS2 game would have been a pretty deep cut a few days ago. When I did know about it then, so does that count?
That's not a very interesting answer.
There's Marvel Chaos, which was going to be a sequel to Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects, but it got cancelled. And then I think a playable build of that also leaked, but it was much earlier in development. Yeah.
Did Marvel just leak all their video games? Like, what's going on here?
I think people like found dev kits with them on it.
Just like lying around?
You know how that happens sometimes? I don't know how it happens. I just know that it has happened to other games, like Star Wars Battlefront 3. I think sometime in the last few years I read an article about how that like entire game just sort of leaked. Because like the one that was cancelled like a decade ago, someone found it on a dev kit somewhere and now it's playable, I think. It just happens to games sometimes. And I'm cool with that because I prefer that over them being lost media.
True.
I don't get how it happens, though.
So, aside from these two big video games that we've talked about, are there any video games that you two have been playing in recent times?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did play... I have been playing the Hellboy game. That one's pretty good. Oh, Leaf, Palia. How have you been playing that?
I have.
Okay, and how connected to the community are you on that one?
I mean, I'm in the Discord.
Okay, my roommate became a celebrity in the Palia community. So that's neat.
I'm not connected enough to know probably what that's referring to because I haven't played in a few weeks just because I kind of reached a point in it's still early access. Like, I feel like that's very important to say. It is not the full release of the game. There is content that has
another thing that might be important to say is what kind of video game it is.
No. It's early access. It is a MMO in quotes.
I don't know what
it
to
is
do.
MMO. It is an MMO farming simulator.
I'm trying my best.
Joseph, I'm answering your question. It's a quote unquote MMO, but at this point there's only like 30 people per server or per area.
So it's just
an
MO.
Kind of, yeah.
MO.
It kind of. I mean, it's, a typical MO is like 6-8 players at the max. So compared to that, it's more, but it's a little smaller than you might want it to be. There's currently only 2 zones. I'm very much expecting that will expand before the full release of the game, though I haven't seen that confirmed in any of their plans. But
they put a big parkour section into a game that does not support that kind of gameplay.
They did. I didn't play that, so I haven't played since before they released it. But I did see that it. So part of the issue also, right? It is early access, and this is something that happens in early access games. But they have released multiple updates recently that actively break the game, and like one of the bugs, for example, is that if your character gets stuck T-posing and you go in the wardrobe and then you leave the wardrobe, your character will be irreparably transformed in a completely arbitrary way. And you cannot fix this. That is a known bug. And that is still a bug.
That sentence.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but also like I would be pretty upset if that happened, honestly.
I don't know. I want to be a body horror monster in my MMO. That sounds fun.
But it's not. Well, okay. But then, like, it's an early access game. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that, but there's just like I feel like every complaint that I have about it can really be explained away by that. The quantity of customization is really lacking. The ability to make a and this is me kind of quoting what a lot of other people have said, though I do think it is accurate. Your ability to make a character that isn't like really kind of inherently feminine is almost impossible. Even like your mask characters are pretty femme in appearance, and most of the like even paid for customization I see people complain a lot is like clearly seems to be made for femme characters and not for mask characters. I think that they are about to fix that. Looking at the like snapshot that they released like literally today of the content that's coming, it does look like they're gonna have some mask outfits coming, and I know that they're gonna I want to believe they're going to release more customization. Like right now you can't do facial hair, right, for male characters. That alone I think would do a lot in allowing people to be more masculine. I like the gender neutral vibes, but I totally see what people are saying. Like you either are a feminine woman or a feminine man. Those are your options, really. There's kind of no other anything else. And then the gameplay loop isn't bad, but it still needs a little something. Like the story is still in progress. It does actually look like they're about to add something pretty big to the story, which will help. Again, early access. It's not finished. I reached a point in the story where...
Is it in early access?
Actually, I don't think I mentioned this, but it's in early access. I reached a point in the story where all I can do to, quote unquote progress, but even if I quote unquote progress, I can't actually go anywhere because there's nothing left in the story, is fish. And I usually really like fishing in games like this.
Is it bad?
I don't want to say it's bad, but I don't want to do it for hours.
Oh.
And that's what you have to do. I have fished
that's what
for
I see my roommates do, so I
fish.
assumed it was fine.
No, it's just all that. It's what you have to do. Like, you have these like quests. You reach a point where you have to fill these bundles, and one of the bundles is almost entirely fish. It's the water bundle. I get it, but oh my god, you have to fish and fish and fish and fish and fish. And for a long time, it was bugged. You couldn't catch some of the fish. So people were
No.
like, yeah, people were like fishing for hours and hours. And you'd like, every time I logged on, I'd see people complaining, I can't catch this fish, I can't catch this fish. And then people would be like, yeah, it's bugged. They have fixed that. But it was bugged for
Yeah.
months. Like, it,
Why did you decide to play this game?
it's free. It's fun.
So there are other things that are free.
I got a lot of time out of it. I do need to make that clear. I got a lot of hours.
I'm just curious what
of
sold
enjoying
you
this
on
game.
the experience first.
It's an MMO farming Stardew Valley-esque simulator. You have villagers that you walk around and talk to. You can romance them. They just added the ability for you to befriend the dog. Like, hello?
There should have been a launch the first
Agreed,
day
honestly.
of anyone.
It was pretty... Honestly, I was pretty sad when I realized you couldn't friend the dog. There's still some characters you can't romance either. They just added one that was apparently
dog
highly...
People?
No.
Mm.
No, you
That
can't
would have
romance the dog.
explained it, though.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Blue.
That's not what I meant.
Blue. Quickly changing gears. How did your friend get famous?
So he started doing tutorials for how to do specific things, because he's played tons of other MMOs, and apparently the weird physics systems in those, he was like, I wonder if things work in a similar way in this game, and I guess they do. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
He helps people make their stuff look the way they want it to, because the game tries not to let them.
Like
is how I understand it. Yeah.
Which is very glitched, by the way.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's very glitched. And there's like, I think that they have fixed some of this, but there was a point where they were like, do not put this item down on your housing plot. You will break your game.
As I understand it, he makes tutorials to help people glitch their house to look the way they want it to, because the game doesn't want them to have fun.
Yeah, but that is like truly and genuinely a result in a large part of it being early access, because they have been like actively fixing some of the issues. Like, for example, they have a furniture item called the display case that up until relatively recently you couldn't put anything in. So it was just empty display case. But now you can
think the sort of thing he would do would be find ways to put things in that to be displayed before it actually came to the game.
Yeah, which is valid. That's a good thing, because I know that people kind of complained about that. Like, that makes sense. There's also, you can you relatively quickly in the game get a glider, so you kind of get to glide everywhere, which is pretty fun. It's a tiny bit glitchy.
Is it like a 3D game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty. Like, it's nice to look at.
It's pretty what?
It's got like a Zelda-esque glider, I think.
Yeah.
And
very Zelda-esque glider.
Like.
The glider has a spot for you to put a customization into it, but there's either only one or there are none. So that's still definitely in the works. It's a fun game because it's a free game, and you can pay for cosmetics, but you don't have to pay to play at all. There's no like monthly subscription or anything. So in that regard, it's nice because I can do what I've done now and take like a long break on it and not like be wasting money or anything. I do like the farming mechanics. It is real time, which annoys me a little. Like I personally struggle a little bit with games that have clocks based off of real time. I understand that that's pretty important in an MMO, but it kind of introduces this feeling of, to be the most efficient, I need to log in every 30 minutes. It's not quite 30 minutes, I don't think. A day cycle, maybe it is 30 minutes. I think it might be an hour. But you want to, it gets you to this place where you feel like, to be the most efficient, I need to log in every day cycle. There is a website you can go to that's just like Palia clock that just tells you what time it is in Palia. Your crops tick, like have a growth tick at 6 a.m. Palia time. So you can just like look and see if it just past 6 a.m. you want to go and water your crops and harvest your crops. Like that would be the most efficient way to manage it. But I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
So that
Don't they have like a sprinkler item that you can get
at
that
this
like
time, no.
automatically
But I
waters your
don't
crops?
know. So no. But what they do have is one of the things that's kind of unique about this crop system that is pretty cool is that each crop applies a trait to its surrounding crops. So there are crops that provide the trait water retention. So if you have that placed somewhere, the crops to the top, bottom, left, and right of that receive that trait of water retention. So they only have to be watered once until they're done growing.
Okay.
This results in a couple of things. One is there a lot of discussions about what is the most optimal way to lay out your farm, which I personally have enjoyed participating in. But also, it can be frustrating for people who don't want to figure it out themselves, because right now there aren't great answers because the game is constantly changing. Like I had a very efficient layout of my crops, and then they just recently introduced 3 new crops that threw that whole layout out the window. You can only have 9 plots, and each plot can hold 9 crops, so you can have 81 crops. But those are only single space crops. They have now introduced 2 4-slot crops and 1 9-slot crop. So that 9-slot crop takes up an entire plot, which makes me not want to plant it because that's too much. I don't want to take up an entire plot with 1 crop. So I feel like to compensate for the fact that they just added a plant that takes an entire plot, they should have given you the ability to have more plots, but they didn't. At least not at this time. This game is early access.
And then I also played Chaos Head Noah. I finished that.
You played the Chaos Emeralds?
No, Chaos Head Noah.
Head?
Those just sound like 3 random words.
Yeah, it's an anime game.
Oh, that explains it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Maybe
it's a translation thing.
It is good.
Ooh. Strong feelings. I like it.
All right.
I can't recommend
give me a
it.
genre. Give me a gaming genre.
It's a visual novel.
Obviously okay, visual novel.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Science fiction. It's the first.
Is it visual novel where the gameplay is the choices, or do you have like inventory or status bars?
It's the choices. So it's
okay.
It's the first game in the series that Steingate is in. It's the first science adventure game. And the story is really, I enjoyed the story and I'm glad I played it, but it is hard to recommend because it is a game where you play as a terrible person, and that sucks. But there is a part in the game later on where the character's like, he says something terrible, and then he's like, oh my goodness, I think I just realized I might be a terrible person. And I was like, yes! Vindication! So, yeah, it's hard to recommend, but it is good. There's just rough stuff around the good stuff.
Leaf, have you been playing any other video games in recent times?
I have been playing other video games in recent times. Thank you so much for asking. I've been playing Chants of Sennaar, which is very fun.
Oh my goodness.
Have you been playing that?
No, I haven't gotten it yet, but I did watch part of a playthrough, and it looks so awesome.
It's so good. It's supposedly on console, and I cannot imagine playing it on console because a portion of the game is typing things. So what basically the game is
A puzzle game.
What's that called? When it's like a...
Isometric?
Thank you. I was only thinking of isopropyl, and that's not it. Yeah, it's isometric.
It's video game medicine.
It's video game medicine. You use it
for the soul.
Yeah. Light puzzle solving. But the primary kind of puzzle that you are solving that is less light than the others is that you are decoding the language of societies that you're exploring. You are a human. Everyone's human. But you are a man. Vague spoiler, but whatever. And not man as in gender. Just like there's kind of different classes, right? Like of
it's like a caste system.
Yeah, there's a caste system, and you are the lowest, basically. And that's just typically referred to in the game as man. So you are that, but you are kind of working your way up this caste system, and also, as you do so, unlocking the languages that they're speaking, and thus discovering kind of the lore of the place, or at least how everyone feels about each other. I haven't finished the game yet. I'm really close, but I have things happening in my life that suddenly made me like not able to complete it. I'm going to, but I haven't. But it's really fun, and as a person who enjoys languages in general, it just really scratched a like really nice part of my brain. It's very fun. Like I highly recommend it. I do enjoy puzzle games in general, so I will put that out there. Like, if you don't like puzzle games, this probably isn't for you. But if you do enjoy, like, using your brain to figure things out, using context clues to figure stuff out, if you like language, I highly recommend it. And it's a written language. It's not like a spoken thing. So they give you little symbols, and then you have a notebook that you can guess the meaning of the symbols to. So that's the typing part. Like you say, I think this means this. I think this symbol means open or close. And then eventually, when you hit certain points in the game, it draws pictures in your notebook and has you pull over the symbol you think corresponds to the picture. And if you get those correct, it does lock it in for you. So you're not just like perpetually guessing. It does like confirm like, yes, you got this right. Or like sometimes, I'll know like this is meant to represent the bottom of the caste system, but I wouldn't know until I locked it in that the word they're using for that is man, right? Or like warrior, for example. Like I think I was just calling them people with hats. Like I knew that this was referring to these people, but I didn't know like what the delineation was.
And so like before you can lock it in, there is usually like things around the environment, like historical plaques or whatever, that you can like compare your notes to and be like, does this word actually make sense in that context? Okay, so I'm gonna keep it for now, or no, I think I might change it, or I might keep it for a little while and ask another, like talk to one more person and he used that in a sentence and try and refigure it out. It's really cool. It's a great concept.
It's really cool. Kind of the way that it works is like once you've put in your notebook, like I think this symbol means this symbol means that. If you then hover over that symbol or series of symbols in the world, whether because someone said it or because it's on a plaque, it'll like pop up and be like, if you're correct, like this is what it would mean, or this is what it would translate to, which is how you can kind of figure out the context. And it is really cool. Like it's a very fun game. I did get stuck a couple of times. I did have to look up a walkthrough a couple of times, but never because I couldn't figure out the words, just because I couldn't figure out where to go. It does have a built-in hint system where if you press middle mouse button, it shows you everything that's on the screen that you can interact with. I do find myself using that a lot because it's not inherently obvious what objects you can and can't click on. And I'm not a point and click type of person. Like, that's just never the type of game I enjoyed. So, that aspect of it is sort of lost on me. But I think as long as you, like, either are really cool with... Also, I did find that this is one of those games where sometimes you just have to walk away and come back. Like, there were definitely, like, points that I got to where I was like, I can't figure out what these words mean. I can't figure out what they're trying to tell me. And so I'd, like, go to bed, come back the next day. 2 seconds later, I understand it. Like, it just makes sense.
I think it would be a hit with most of GameCola, because
Yeah.
puzzle and point-and-click aspects is just really good.
Yeah. So, highly recommend it. Very fun, tickles the brain. Don't be afraid to look up a walkthrough if you feel like it's that or get angry. Oh, I don't think we talked about this. Viewfinder?
How was it?
Great. Loved it. Very fun. Did good things to my brain.
I need it.
Sounds like a game about a kaleidoscope.
It's a camera.
Almost.
Yeah. Basically, it has a really cool, like, world mechanism where if you take pictures of certain things, and what makes it kind of a puzzle game is as you go, you sort of gain the ability to take pictures of this and not this, and you only have one picture that you can take, etc. But the kind of crux of it is that you can take or use pictures, hold them up at a certain angle in the world, and then they become part of the world. And part of the puzzle that you're trying to solve.
Is it by the same people as Superliminal?
Yes.
Or is it just very... Okay, it is. Yeah.
Is this the one that had that one character at one point that was, like, narrating it?
No.
And I feel like there was a game, and it's like, did you just bend reality?
Maybe.
Is that a different game?
I don't think so. But that does sound like something that could have been said. Your character never speaks. Your character speaks to someone. You were exploring a world for something. That's all I'll say. And you have a person who is guiding you through this. And eventually you also stumble across like evidence of the people who were in this place before you and learn about them through what they've left behind. And you also come across an AI that takes the form of a very cute cat.
As opposed to all those non-cute cats.
Correct.
That's true. Like,
you understand.
In my opinion,
Tread lightly.
there are cats that I don't think are cute.
Blasphemy.
I don't
Blue, you're
particularly find flat-faced animals very cute in general. Because all I think when I look at them is that they can't breathe.
Oh.
That's not ugly, you just feel bad for them. That's different. That's different.
I guess
Viewfinder,
when it hurts to look at something,
Yeah. Viewfinder I played on console. I imagine it's also available on PC. I don't think you lose anything by playing it on console. There's no, like, it's not a first-person shooter or anything, so there's not, like, any real need to be able to aim quickly. It was a good, like, kind of couch game. It's pretty short. It's shorter than Chants of Sennaar for sure. I've gotten more time out of Chants of Sennaar, which is also kind of short. I mean, most puzzle games are relatively short. But Viewfinder really kind of felt like by the time I reached the end, I was like, I still want more. And I understand that the story is complete, but I kind of wish that there'd been like an additional challenges available or like just like these levels didn't make it in the game, maybe sort of thing. Like I just wanted more. I would have kept playing that game without the story. The story's fine. It's nothing to write home about, honestly. It's fine. It carries you through the game. It's not boring. It's not really stupid. It seems at the beginning like it might be really exciting, and it doesn't really. It's not. Yeah, I just wanted more puzzles. I wanted to solve more puzzles. The mechanics were fun. I wanted to play more of it, but it was over. So those are the two puzzle games I've been playing, and then a game that I am not yet playing, but we'll probably talk about the next time we all gather together like this, will be my time at Sandrock, which just had its full release. And I have played the entirety of the beta. Yeah, I played the beta to completion, so now I just have to finish the game.
Now that the game has a finish.
Yeah, now that the game has an end, I have to finish it. And I know that they've added some like mechanics and probably some upgrades, and now some characters that weren't romanceable before are romanceable, but it sucks because I'm already married. So I think I'll be able to have babies now.
Yay.
Yeah.
Joe, is it time to talk about what Joe's been playing?
Oh yeah, Joseph, what have you been playing?
I've been Pokemon Sleeping and Pokemon Awaking. That's been pretty much it. I just got internet here at my new apartment. not that I couldn't have played video games without the internet, but just like getting things set up has kind of been my priority. Pokemon Sleep is definitely wearing on me a bit. The sleeping part is fine, but the stuff that you have to do through the day as more and more things kind of like happen and like you get access to more things, it kind of becomes like a bit more of a chore.
Yeah.
The other frustrating thing, and I think maybe I mentioned this, is that like it doesn't work if you don't have internet. So like either you have a commute where you drive and so you can't, do the daily things on your commute then, or you've got a commute like me where you're underground enough of the time that you can't even use the internet anyway. So it's kind of like it's a little disruptive, and also like even like it actually can kind of keep you up late a little bit because you are doing all the things that end off the day like before you go to bed, and sometimes it's like I really should just go right to bed. So I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to do it. It's kind of getting diminishing returns. They do have a Halloween event that is extended. It's like a week that's going on, and I might keep it up through vacations during the holiday season. Some people might call it the holidays. But if I have to be careful about using the word holiday around here because people get very suspicious very quickly of my British history.
I'm sure they do.
And then I've been playing, Pokemon Showdown. Still random battles because the next DLC, the final DLC hasn't dropped yet. Once it does, then the metagame, the official metagame will settle enough that I can... Because it's sort of like your crops leaf, where it's like it keeps changing, so... learning how to do a thing in like the most efficient way or the best strategy is kind of feels like a time waste because as soon as the new DLC comes out, the whole thing's going to change again.
I heard Palafin's good again, so I'm happy about that.
Palafin's always been good. Palafin got banned.
It dropped out of... For a while, it was not good.
Did it get unbanned at the new DLC? And then dropped to UU?
Maybe? I don't know.
I haven't been following that much, to be honest.
I don't have the game.
It's not a game that you have a browser.
Well, I meant like in official competitive play.
Oh, in VGC. Oh, Palafin's very different in VGC.
Yeah.
In singles, Palafin was overpowered because singles is a lot of switching.
Yeah.
So the fact that you had to switch to activate its overpowered ability was like nothing because you have to switch most Pokemon like at least twice per battle, whereas in doubles in VGC, you're lucky if an entire battle has more than like 3 switches.
I think Palafin's
different.
my favorite from this gen.
The little surgeon glove hands.
What?
Leaf, you've seen Palafin. That's the big dolphin one that you didn't like the hands of.
Oh, yes, I don't like that dolphin's hands.
It's the dolphin that has a secret identity, and when no one is looking, it switches into its superhero form. That's adorable.
And that's why it has hands?
Yeah, I guess. To me, they always looked like fins, but I guess I don't have the game.
They have fingers. They have fingers.
I never noticed its fingers, so I don't know. Superman has fingers, so it's fine.
That is a very interesting equivalency you pulled together there.
Sure.
I think it's about time to wrap up the GameCola podcast.
Wait, what is your favorite Pokemon to make go to sleep?
My favorite Pokemon to make it go to sleep?
Or whatever.
Probably either Doduo or Croconaw because they keep an eye open.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah,
Croconaw keeps an eye open because apparently that's what real crocodiles do. And Doduo has one head that's always awake. I think Dodrio, I don't have a Dodrio yet, but I think that's also the case.
That's cute.
Which I think is fun. Okay. Thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. Yay! You're not joining. Yay!
Yay!
If you liked what you heard, please check us out on our actual internet website, GameCola.net. And join us on the Discord at the Discord link that has to be posted anywhere because you can't say a Discord link out loud in a easily
Discord.com/channel/283.
Yeah, those are the actual numbers.
No.
I bet you could search for the GameCola. I wonder if you could search. I need to check that sometime. If you can just search the GameCola Discord and find it. You could try that. Search for GameCola on Discord and see what shows up. And look for the little G guy to make sure it's the actual right place. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, GCDotNet, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net. James has been continuing his playthrough of the Ghost Trick remake, which has been very fun. And then also they've been doing the live streams for...
Dang
is it
it,
still
Grandpa.
Danganronpa?
Yeah, it's
Dang it, Ron
Grandpa.
Paul. Dang it, Grandpa.
I think
3. It's the third one.
That's the last one
They've been
I
doing
saw.
streams every Sunday where they are able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We still have social media, I guess, but we don't really use it because social media keeps breaking the things that let us use social media.
It's kind of done.
But yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us on this Alan Wake experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the Alan Wake podcast. I've been your host, Mr. Doors. Alex Payne and Mr. Scratch will be back next week to talk more about what you can expect from this place that is not a lake, it is an ocean. And remember, everyone, it's not a loop. It's redacted.
Oh.
I don't know what you're saying.
I'm glad we broke Joe this podcast.
Goodbye. Have a wonderful time day wherever it is you're listening it. Whenever it is you're listening to this podcast. And we'll see you next month. Goodbye. You have to say goodbye.
Goodbye. Look, if you've made it to the end of Alan Wake, what I just said will be meaningful.
I bet it will be.
I really want to say the whole thing, but I can't because it's a spoiler.
I heard something about a ribbon on the internet, but
a ribbon
it doesn't mean anything to me.
You can have your Alan Wake podcast when you finish the game. You're welcome to put that together.
Okay.
We will.
We will.
It's gonna be